Good afternoon. I'll have you state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
Sean Kavajecz, last name spelled just like it sounds, Kavajecz.
And were you in the room this morning when I went through the penalties for perjury?
I was.
And do you understand what perjury is?
I do.
And being advised of the potential penalties for perjury, do you promise to tell the truth in this case today?
I do, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Go ahead.
I just want to thank the commissioners, thank the panel, basically, to allow us just a little bit of time to come in and comment and support of Summit's Carbon Solutions Midwest Carbon Express CO2 pipeline project. Like I said, I'm Sean Kavajecz. I'm the Director of Environment with Precision. So we're here on behalf of Precision Pipeline. We're actually excited to partner with Summit and execute the objectives of this project and be a part of kind of the cutting edge or the first carbon capture, large carbon capture storage project. I guess there are obviously other carbon capture lines out there right now, but this is probably the world's largest. So we're excited to support that and be a part of the solution for that whole project. Precision is a Wisconsin-based construction contractor with extensive experience successfully completing numerous large-scale projects in the Midwest, including North Dakota. We've been awarded scopes of work in North Dakota, Minnesota, and Iowa, with approximately 188 miles of that specifically in North Dakota. So we take exceptional pride in our ability to execute large diameter pipeline projects. Precision brings a strong environmental program. We bring a strong team with expertise in all disciplines, and we team together with the client to understand their objectives and work to meet the sensitivities and complexities of each job. Precision has a strong environmental program, an experienced team that understands each project has very many situational differences depending upon the specifics of the area of impact. So we dovetail our programs with the client's programs to try to ensure that all resources are accounted for and impacts are minimized. And our goal is obviously to leave the land in the same condition pre-construction as it was in pre-construction. As Josh mentioned, our commitment always extends beyond just building the pipeline. We have teams and spreads and superintendents and foremen that come into the communities and really take pride in establishing themselves, looking for paths to donate, to be part of that community while they're here. That's their lives, they're on the road and they're looking to make a positive impact wherever they are. So as Josh mentioned, we're here to support the project and look to be part of that solution.
All right, thank you. Mr. Bender, any questions?
No questions. Thank you for your testimony.
Mr. Pelham?
Sir, are you familiar with Pumco as a pipeline company?
I'm not really.
All right, I don't have any other questions for you. Thank you.
Mr. Jordy?
Sir, you just mentioned that it's your goal to leave land in the, quote, same condition, same pre-construction condition, post-construction. Would you agree that that's impossible to do when you are tearing up or trenching through native prairie grass to return it to the, quote, same condition it was in?
We've dealt with similar situations where we have to reestablish natural vegetation. We partner with the client. Obviously, they're working with the agencies to ensure restorations plans are in alignment. They understand the local impacts, and the ways to mitigate those impacts. So we will certainly look to work together with those agencies and the company to return and restore those conditions.
So is another way of answering that question that you agree with me, you cannot restore native prairie grass to the exact condition that it was before?
I guess I'm not an expert on the native prairie grass, so I can't really speculate on whether we can, that's a collective effort, as I mentioned, with responsibilities amongst the various entities, and we'll execute whatever that restoration plan is to achieve that goal.
So who do you take your direction from them? Does Summit tell you what to do in regards to restoration, reclamation, or who does?
Well, it's a partnership. So we have, all our crews, we have environmental crews that do this. Their job is to come in and restore the various environments that we operate within, whether it's sensitive wetlands, whether it's sensitive farmlands. All resources we treat as sensitive, and they all require equal mitigation in some form or fashion. So our folks are adept in dealing with all those types of environments.
Does your company, Precision, offer a warranty or a guarantee that the ground will be put back to the same condition?
We don't make those warranties. We're not in the client's position, so we're just have a contract with the client, and we'll execute what they ask us to execute.
And that's the client you refer to here would be Summit.
Summit.
Right. And so if there's something wrong, then the landowner doesn't go after you. They would have to go after Summit, right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, on the Line 3 replacement project that you worked on in Minnesota, are you aware of how many incident reports there have been on that pipeline?
How many incident reports?
Yeah, do you know, like when there's a leak, a spill, or there's a problem with a weld, an incident report is made based upon any type of issues with particular construction of a pipeline, operation of a pipeline?
Just the ones that we track and manage are in our spread, so we aren't responsible. We have particular spreads that we're awarded. We don't get the whole pipeline. We are only working with the client to deliver and execute what they award us from a contract perspective, and that's what we'll execute.
All right. So even though you might have the greatest intention and maybe are the greatest pipeline builder in all the world, you would agree that man-made pipelines and welds and man-made materials can break, fail, leading to catastrophic situations, correct?
I believe that things malfunction mechanically. There has been leaks in pipelines, certainly.
What's the value of the contract your company has with Summit?
I can't speak to that. I don't know the value. I'm not the estimator. I'm the director of environment, so I don't get into the contract numbers.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
You bet.
Mr. Bakke, any questions?
Yes. Mr. Kavajecz, would you agree that construction and design of CO2 pipelines is a new industry?
No, it's a liquids pipeline.
Okay, so how long have you been involved, Precision, in constructing CO2 pipelines? Have you built any before?
We've been involved with constructing liquid pipelines since our inception.
Okay, and I'm talking about CO2 pipelines specifically.
No, we haven't built a CO2 pipeline.
Okay. And have you received any training on constructing CO2 pipelines?
The training falls under PHMSA Part 195, which has design, construction, operation, maintenance, and emergency response procedures. So we're in tune with that, certainly.
Well, PHMSA relates to different liquid products, including oil and gas, natural gas, those types of things. I'm asking specifically regarding CO2. Have Mr. Schultz or you received any training on concerns specific to CO2 pipelines in constructing them?
We certainly follow the literature, yes.
Well, I didn't ask you if you follow.
Training, like in what? I don't understand what kind of training
Have
you're
you,
talking about.
for instance, with engineers or chemists or things you need to consider in terms of the joints and
We're not designing the pipeline. We're constructing.
or how they should be installed? You haven't received any of that training?
Like I said, we've constructed liquid pipelines since our inception. This is classified as a liquid pipeline. So, yes, we've constructed those.
But my questions are directed to CO2 pipelines. So let me ask you another thing in relation to warranty. Do you warranty your work if you get selected to and this CO2 pipeline gets constructed, do you warranty?
I'm
your
the
work?
director of environment. I don't know if we warranty anything.
Okay, so you're not aware of any warranty if something goes wrong?
No.
Okay. Mr. Godfrey, the expert proffered by Summit down in Linton testified in South Dakota when he was a witness for Summit there in relation to the Summit pipeline this year that there were 102 leaks in CO2 pipelines and related facilities. Did you study to determine why that's such a high number?
No, that would just be speculating, and we don't study those types of issues.
Are you aware there's only about 5,000 miles
Yeah.
of CO2 pipelines in the United States?
Yes.
Doesn't that strike you as extremely high, 102 leaks in just 5,000 miles of CO2?
I don't know the specifics of that, the construction. I don't know the geography. I can't speak to that.
Has Precision had leaks in its pipelines before that it's
We don't
constructed?
own the pipelines. So
Pardon?
we don't own pipelines. We just construct it.
That's what I'm asking. The pipelines that have been constructed by Precision, have you had leaks before?
We don't track retroactive leaks.
Okay, so you may have had leaks, but you don't even know about them.
Right. Yeah, I couldn't comment on that.
I have no further questions.
Commissioner Chrisman?
Did you say what your spread is in North Dakota?
We have it would be the eastern spread, 188 miles. It's not the.
Is the split like where it goes down into South Dakota and then comes back out?
Yes.
So you don't do any from one that exits South Dakota into
Start and stop. I can't tell you for sure, Commissioner.
mostly the east side. And
Right.
then my other question, with regard to reclamation, do you work with local NRCS, the conservation districts, to figure out the right native species grass mixes to plant in an area that
Usually the client will work with the local NRCSs, and if not, we will certainly consult them to the degree that we need to.
no other questions? Thank you.
And we actually also have an internal group within our company that procures our own seed. We'll work with native seed suppliers, ensuring that it's weed-free, these kinds of things.
Okay. The last part of that probably was meant as reassurance, but it caused me a concern. One of the things, because this agency also oversees coal mine reclamation, one of the issues I would have concern with is if the contractor or the company is just contacting some national seed company for native species grasses, because the native species grasses, even in South Dakota, are different than here, and you need the right mix if they're going to be successful.
Definitely, and in fact, where my reference really was coming from was we did work in Minnesota on the Line 3 project. I think that was referenced earlier, and they had very specific native seed requirements, and we had to go to specific nurseries and procure that native seed. It wasn't like a Pennington, high-level seed company.
Thank you.
Commissioner Haugenhofer?
Yeah. How many employees do you have in the company?
It really depends. We're a scaling company, depending upon our workload. So I can't answer that question to tell you the truth.
The top low, give me a range.
From a management's perspective, I think we'd have 150.
That would be the average
That would be
or high?
the salaried people and that sort of thing. And then, once you procure a spread, that could be up to 400 people.
Okay. And how many years have you been in business?
Since 2004. Since
Just for clarification, if awarded, you would build a pipeline. So do you start on removing the topsoil and the subsoil? At what point do you enter? How does your work begin if you build
sequencing of construction.
Yep.
It would we'd kick off at a certain location, so there would be a spread, and we would designate, I don't know whether it's valve to valve or some, whatever a good starting point is. And that's not something that I come up with, but you start with clearing, grading. The survey is already done. We know where the center line is. That's done by somebody else. We come and basically initiate the clearing, the grading, the trenching, the stringing and bending, lowering. And
In your experience, have you worked directly with PHMSA on site regarding the pipeline safety?
not in this capacity, and in my former job, I did.
Okay. And just give an overview in that former, with your familiarity with PHMSA, the pipeline safety, how did you guys work together? What was some of the just common exchange of communication and inspection?
In my previous
Yep.
role with a different company?
Yeah.
They would, depending upon the project, and when we were building pipelines with the company, my previous company or my previous employment, you have to notify PHMSA 180 days if you have a construction project larger than this 100 miles of pipe. So we constructed $14 billion worth of pipelines, so we were always dealing with PHMSA. They were always on, a lot of times they would send inspectors on site. We have a quality group that we have our own, Precision has our own quality inspectors. They work jointly with those PHMSA folks or the client's representatives. We don't do any more than the client wants us to do, right? So we're there to monitor our own quality, and if we want to dialogue or the client wants us to actually dialogue with PHMSA, we would do that.
Okay. No further questions. Thank you.
Mr. Dawson?
Can you explain what you do as opposed to what temporary employees do when you start construction? I.e., there was talk earlier that up to 50% of man hours are employees that you hire from the local community. How do those separate out? I take it there's a line. You do something and they do something.
Well,
What's that line?
We're a union contractor, so I think the differentiation, and I don't want to get out of my own expertise, so don't quote me on this, but as I testify, right? But about, we hire local contractors and we bring our own union contractors. So there's a marriage that occurs and training that occurs where, we have our foremen and superintendents and those types of people that are more management, but still union management. And they have their spreads that they'll hire laborers and operators, and we'll bring certain of our own laborers and operators that have been with us through, the course of many jobs. So it's a marriage of those two.
No further questions.
All right. Thank you.